Hey, it's Hillary Baggett, host of Hill Talks Momentum in Midlife. And today I'm bringing you a unique conversation. Have you ever wondered, what am I doing with my life? Or what do I want to do with my life? And not having any idea what the answer to that question is. Well, if so, then this episode is for you. Have you ever considered, are you a job creator or a job beggar? You're just trying to find anything that will work for you, but you don't really know how to find the right fit for you, for where you are, for this moment. Well, after a decade working in vocational rehab, shifting gears to counseling, and even going through her entrepreneurial journey and the founder of KidsArt global franchises, Shell Mendelsohn crashed and burned. And then the ADHD diagnosis shed the light on why all this was happening, which led her to this moment right here and right now. So stay tuned if you want to hear about creative people who are great problem solvers, but they might struggle in their career, at work, and in the organization of those daily tasks that are just not the right fit for you. Enjoy. Hey, I'm Hillary Baggett, host of Hill Talks Momentum in Midlife. As an occupational therapist turned entrepreneur after 50, I am on a mission to connect, motivate, and inspire women over 40 to know that no matter what is going on in your body, mind, spirit, or business, you can reach for that dream and know you are not alone as we create the Women's Midlife Network. We're in the month of ADHD awareness, and it's also menopause awareness. So sometimes my guests are women who are over 40, over 50, over 60. And we're continuing our Women Supporting Women series. And I'm excited to bring you today a conversation with someone whose life changed when she became diagnosed with ADHD, well after the age of 40. And she's a career coach, and she specializes in helping people with ADHD. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. And Shell holds a master's degree in vocational and career counseling. She's worked with clients, thousands of clients in career transition, and she's developed and written the ADHD career defining articles, developing a successful solopreneur business, and her masterclass for ADHD adults and young adults who are in career flux. I mean, are you stuck? So she was developing her own career path, and it's taken her through the dark moments and back again into the light. The key was feeling the inspiration to do the work that she truly loved, the how to. And now she's determined to share this with the world. Her course book, A Course for ADHD Adults and Teens, Unlock Your Career Path, is scheduled to launch December 2023. Hey there, I'm here with Shell Mendelsohn, and we were just talking before we pressed record about ADHD Awareness Month. It's the month of October. She's got some really exciting things coming up, and I wanted to highlight some of her personal story that comes from her professional experience and her career. So, Shell, I'd love to start with what really led you to the ADHD diagnosis?
Okay, Hillary. Well, that's a great question. I'll try and be brief because I was diagnosed very late in life, so there was a whole world of work before that, where I was enjoying my work, and then I started a franchise system. The franchise system was called KidsArt. It was a children's art program, after-school art program, and we trained people to teach, have their own businesses, hiring teacher to teach after-school program. Right. So that was what we did. And it was very fun putting it together until it wasn't. So I'm not going to go into big story on it because I know your time is limited, right? So it's a big story though. And anybody who knows me knows this story because they've lived it with me. But I got to the point with the franchise system where I was dreading it so much. I was not having fun anymore because it went from the creative part, the part where I was putting it all together and having fun doing that, to the point where it was now day to day, putting out fires every day, not using any of the skills I enjoy using, even not being around the people I wanted to be around. They weren't like the kind of people I really could thrive around. And it just became an albatross. And I finally, things did not go well. I think I was undiagnosed. And I'm sure I was not perfect in that business because I wasn't happy. So when you're not happy and you're undiagnosed, it impacts other people. So I know that there was my part in there as well. But it did not end well. And when I finally left, it was like a weight had been lifted. But I was also sent into a really bad position. I spiraled basically. And that was when I went crawling to the bookshelf that a friend of mine who was a therapist had sent me 2 years earlier on ADHD. And when she sent me that book, she didn't say a word. She just sent it to me. And I looked at it and I laughed and I stuck it in the drawer where it stayed for 2 years until this happened. Then I went crawling to the bookshelf. I knew exactly where it was, put my
Okay.
hands on it, opened it up, and many people I'm sure can relate to this. You read all those little characteristics, that checklist.
Yeah.
Most people with ADHD are familiar with the checklist, right? And I think I checked off 3/4 of what was written down there. And it finally hit me, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not going insane because I don't know. I was completely unfamiliar with what ADHD was in adults, not in younger children, but in adults.
Absolutely. What it looks like in children is very different how it shows up for
Yeah.
adults. And you
Yes.
had struggled and hit rock bottom. You said before we had pressed record, you had crashed and burned, and you were a passionate person. You were
Yes.
helping people in careers from vocational rehab all the way through.
Yep.
And there was a very important question that someone very early in your career had asked you when he said, do you remember?
What do I? Yeah, of course. What do you really want to do?
What do you really want to do?
What do you really want
Yeah.
to do?
And whether you
That's
are neurotypical or neurodivergent, a lot of the times people have trouble really identifying what do I like? What am I good at? And you were so richly influenced by a very famous book that sometimes younger generations aren't familiar with. But what was that
hmm
book that influenced you so much?
it's called What Color is Your Parachute by Richard N. Bowles.
Yeah.
And this is the workbook.
What Color's
This
Your
is it.
Parachute? Job Hunter's Workbook for our listeners. Because if you're
Yes.
listening to the podcast, we release it on Tuesday. The video goes onto YouTube on Wednesday. And then you get to kind of see some of the pictures. But I always like to narrate because not everybody has time to go to YouTube. But
Yeah.
you had so many people looking out for you. You had this passion as an entrepreneur, as a creative. And when it
hmm
stopped being fun,
Well, and I had gotten away from doing the work I love for so long because I was so swept up in this other process, which became overwhelming. And the day to day became very awful for me at some point. It was all we were doing is putting out fires, and it seemed like it was a never ending pit. And I had no idea what the world of franchising was all about. And I'll never go back. I have people in franchising still contacting me, and I say, no, I'll
wow.
never go back. Yeah.
Well, as an entrepreneur myself, I can only imagine the exponential number of headaches and challenges. And it gets kind of bogging down. So I'm grateful
Mhm,
that we can sometimes use strategies to reach out to virtual
mhm.
assistants or admin support to help us with some of that tedious stuff.
We have, well, yeah, we had really good people with us. And, the thing was that it was, I am very proud of what we did with KidsArt. It became an international franchise. We were in 39 states and 15 countries.
Wow.
And we were in China. We were in like 3 locations in China. We were impacting children, thousands and thousands of children around the world. So that was just came out of my head one day, and I woke up with the name, I woke up with the idea for it, and at some point, you just start creating, and you just take one step, and if anyone had sat me down and said, "If you wanna start a franchise, this is what you're gonna have to do," I never would have done it,
Oh, right.
right?
I
Never would
think
have done
that
it.
some of the superpowers of people with ADHD is incredible creativity,
Yes.
incredible imagination, incredible, sometimes hyper focus, attention to detail. And
Mhm.
then sometimes that can last or burn for just a certain amount of time. And then
Yes.
sometimes, I know for me, I'm speaking personally for me, I'm like, okay, I've done that for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. Okay, what's something different? My brain needs a new challenge or something else. But I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about you've come up with some ways for people who are working and they have ADHD and they need not looking for accommodations from their employer or from a colleague, but for themselves. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I call it creating a self-accommodation plan. And it's very detail oriented. We go through this in my master class, my Your Next Career Move master class. It's part of the process that we do. And I mean, the American for Disabilities Act came out with the accommodations for employees, at least in federal government, but it's I think something that's law now that you have to reasonably accommodate if an employee asks you for accommodation. But that term reasonable can be interpreted in many, many ways. So, because ADHD is not a physical disability, and because it impacts people so differently on the job, it's almost impossible to come up with a plan that's really going to make sense, right? Everybody I've worked with just thinks it's a joke. Like it's not really something that works for them. So I've developed part of the work we do is working conditions, and it's identifying the different aspects of, I call it the physical and the non physical conditions. And the physical would be all the things like, uh, the color of the walls, your surroundings, what kind of space you work in. Uh, do you need an office? Do you need windows? Do you need to work at do you have to have a big desk? Does it have to look a certain way? And you get to decide. You create that for yourself, and you write it all down. All those things down to the last detail. The kind of equipment you use, the kind of phone you use, the kind of chair you sit on, whether there are windows. Do you need floor to ceiling? What are you looking out on? How much lighting? What kind of lighting do you need? What about the sounds? What about the artwork on the walls? Do you need artwork? Do you want to have pictures at your do you want to have some personal items? Do you want to use headphones? Are you allowed to use headphones? What about getting up and being able to take breaks as you need them? And not being a lot of There are a lot of companies that are tracking people now. They're literally tracking them everywhere they go, and they track how long they're in the bathroom. I mean, it's not.
Oh,
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It's
wow.
not the same world. The world we live in now, the world of work, is very different from when I was growing up with some of the larger corporate. Not all of them. I'm not going to say straight across the board, but it has become a very different. The expectations are very different now than they used to be. And when I talk to the people, my clients, it's like they paint such a very different picture from anything that I ever experienced. So it's not some of it it's so almost unrecognizable. It's really really tough out there
Mm.
in the world of work. And if you don't know what you want, you're not able to articulate that. You can't ask for uh, an accommodation, and you can call it that. You don't have to call it that when you speak with someone. You can say, when I have these items, or when I have the ability to get up and walk around, when I have a desk that allows me to have two or three different screens, because a lot of people need more screens, monitors for on their computers. A lot of people with
Yeah.
ADHD. My son has this giant monitor that curves, and it's divided into three, like you can do three different things all on one monitor. Some people need that, especially with ADHD. So to be surrounded by in the kind of workspace that they feel comfortable in and can move around in, all of those things need to be detailed out down to the last smallest item. I say down to the paper clips. Like, do you want
Wow.
do you need colored paper clips?
Okay.
Is that
Yes, I would
important
say
to
yes.
you?
I do need colored paper clips because I like organizing by color and
There you
I like the
go.
variety, right?
You need variety. You need, what does your brain need for you to be productive and feel good in your workspace? What
Wow.
are the things you need to be surrounded by? Okay, so
Well,
those are some of the. I have my dog right here. My dog is here every time I do a class. He sleeps very quietly in his little bed. It's a lot. People working at home, a lot of people know their dogs have to be by their sides. That's just a thing now. Didn't used to be,
yes.
but it is now. Yeah.
Well, I love how you're kind of teaching people some kind of self awareness and some insight into themselves. What
Yeah.
helps me focus? What helps me be energized? What helps me pay attention to what's being done? What kind of
Mhm.
environment is going to help me be successful? And then teaching
Yes.
people to be kind of self advocates for themselves.
Yeah, because you the way you put it is as a win-win. Like, when I have these things, you are going to have a very productive person, employee. I can get projects done in record time. Uh, I could be accountable, and it won't take me like hours and hours to do something because I've got everything I need, and these are the things I need. And when I'm not, and part of it would be maybe switching tasks with somebody to do something that you really don't enjoy doing, so that you can focus more on the things that you are comfortable doing, that you actually enjoy doing. So enjoyment is a big part of it. Excuse me.
But I like what you
I mean,
said that like different generations experience the work differently. And companies,
yeah,
if you have older bosses, they're going to come from a
yeah,
completely different generation where you showed up, you
yeah,
worked at the same place for 30, 40, and 50 years. And the
yeah.
younger generations are definitely not doing that. Is that what you're noticing too?
I think, I don't know if it's just kind of the way the world of work has evolved over the years, and the way businesses are working now, and what their expectations of their employees are.
Mm.
And the expectations have just gotten, like, the number of hours worked. So when I say non-physical, I always say put down no more than 40 hours or less. And the jaws drop when I say that, because so many employers now just expect that you do mandatory, what I call mandatory overtime. Mandatory overtime, you don't get paid for that.
Yeah.
That's time that cuts into your family time. It takes you off your work balance. There is no life work balance. Just getting simple things done, it becomes impossible because you're working so many hours. So when you're creating your plan, that needs to be part of the plan. What is the stop gap in terms of how many hours you're willing to work? And that has to be clear up front. And if you are interviewing for a position with a company where the expectation is that everybody's going to work till the job gets done, that's kind of
That's
the
my nightmare. That's
wording.
my nightmare job.
That's a night, but a lot of people are working with ADHD are working in those jobs. So it's a reality for a lot of people. And without knowing what you want, you're kind of put in this what I call job beggar position versus job creator position. So
Oh,
I call it a job beggar when you're walking in because you need the money, you've got the skill, you can tick off all the bullets of what they're looking for, but you yourself don't really know what you want. You just know that you can do the job. And it pays money so you can pay your bills. But that is not sustainable. Doing doing that kind of being in that kind of a position without knowing what you want, it's kind of a setup for eventually crashing and burning out. It's
absolutely.
and most people that contact me, though, that is the position they're in. They really have been very good at we're very good at getting jobs. Jobs fall in our laps because we're skilled at a lot of things. We're smart. We can figure stuff out. We're creative. All of those things, and then we're great in interviews, right? We are great in interviews. So we get the job, and then it's like the nightmare begins.
Wow.
And very often there's the bait and switch thing where you think that you're getting one job, and they go, "Oh, you look like you're so good in this thing. Your strength is doing this one thing that you don't want to do." So they put you doing that one thing, and
Mm,
it may be something completely different for 6 months, which could be the end right there.
okay.
Uh, so
So,
there's so many situations that occur that if you don't know what you want, you're subjected to,
okay.
possibly happening.
So, we're going to highlight exactly what you do to help people not only identify that self accommodation, but you've built your whole career into supporting and coaching. You're not an
Yeah.
ADHD coach, but you're a career coach that focuses.
ADHD, ADHD career coach. Yes.
That's right. And it's not for people who want a career in ADHD, it's people with ADHD who are trying to succeed in their career, right?
Yeah. Who are looking for career direction.
Yeah. And so you're kind of the fairy godmother, maybe, that kind of helps them get a picture. Oh, you didn't like that term?
No, I mean, that's fine. I never thought of myself that way, but yeah.
Well,
I don't
if
know about
you're,
fairy godmother. I'm the coach who really I've been at this for so many years. There, you can throw any question at me as far as career is concerned. How do I do this? How do I figure this out? I can answer it because I've not only is it my background and it's my education, but it's also I've lived it. I lived through all the ups and downs, and I've lived my experience going off course, which was creating the franchise system. That was where I went off course. And that's why I crashed and burned because it wasn't my life's work. It wasn't the work that I really am connected with, like I am with the what I'm doing now. So when I got back to doing what I'm doing now, it was like, you know, the seas had parted and weight was lifted, and I was home again. That's how it felt,
home
and I could.
again. I love that. And I hope people listening can maybe take a moment and reflect on your life right now. And are you feeling weighted down, like the weight of the world is on your shoulders? Or are you feeling like the seas have parted and you're walking through with ease and you're ready to sing and you can do this and you have energy and focus? And if not, then you might need to talk to somebody like Shell because you've
Knowing
got to.
knowing what you Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You can edit that out. But knowing what you want actually does help with that kind of feeling. It helps give you a feeling of confidence. And that feeling of confidence is a big relief, and it is like coming home when you have it.
There's so many people, Shell, who are kind of stuck and trapped and they feel kind of locked into their career. But you have a solution for them. Tell me about this upcoming book that is just about to start. pre-selling. What is the title?
It is called A Course. This is what the cover looks like. And
Unlock Your Career Path, a
a course.
course
Well, the
for
top part is
ADHD.
Adults and Teens Unlock Your Career Path. Very simple. It pretty much is exactly what the title says. And I do pay homage to Richard Bowles, who was my mentor, and it's inspired and it's modeled. A lot of it is modeled after that work. It's very different in a lot of ways, but I am giving him full on credit for inspiring me, and because I've worked, I've tried to do him proud, so to speak, in
Oh,
for so many years. And I think I have. I think I've succeeded, but I also realized that with ADHD, there are so many things, tweaks that I had to make, so many additional elements that I had to bring into the process. And that's what the book is all of those years of putting this information together, graphics. So everything is broken down. It's literally a course in how to find your path, very much like my class. It's like my class in a book, except that it's without the personal instruction. So I try and make it as easy to navigate as possible, which means with our brains, we need color, we need pictures, we need to break things down step by step. And I've tried to do that in this book as much as possible. And I've had everybody on my team, like my editor and the graphics person who's formatting the book, ADHD. So everything is done from that perspective to make sure that it really does reflect uh, what they would need if they were navigating the book themselves, if they were reading it and going through it. But it does allow you. I'm hoping that it will be used in groups. I'm hoping it will be used in schools. I want it to be used for teens, in high schools, in colleges, in college career centers, in nonprofits that work with ADHD or neurotypical individuals. I even want it to be in Department of Employment. Well,
absolutely. Because why
yeah,
are we sending our kids through school? They've got to pick what they want to major in college so they can choose the right college so they can get through.
yes,
And if anyone else is like me, where graduation day with my bachelor's, I laid on the floor crying because I
yeah.
thought, wait a minute, I don't want to sit at a desk and design things all the time. I need to be up and moving. And I didn't have an ADHD career coach to help me along the way.
That is what you just said is the number one thing that people say. I don't want to be sitting behind a desk all day. I need to get up and move around. I need to be outside. I need to be doing things, a little of this, a little of that. That's how our brains are. So a lot of times, somebody used the word cobbling. A lot of times you're cobbling together elements of who you are, what you really draw energy from and enjoy,
Mm,
and you're creating something that you can do out there in the world. And it can be either a job with there are employers who actually like people who can create positions that really fit in and support what they're doing. But also, working on your own is a good thing. I did the entrepreneurial thing where I started a company, but now I'm a solopreneur. Like I just consider myself a business owner. I just work on my own. I work with other people who either I pay or we work together. They have their businesses. I really don't like managing people. So that's one of the things that I say, no, 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 no managing.
I love that you have lived out what you're teaching. And that's
Yes.
where the richness comes in. That's where it's a calling and a mission and a purpose that's essentially Shell, right?
Yes, very much, very much. And you had asked me about my own personal space. I created my office in a way that I just feel good every time I'm in it. I look out the window and see the squirrels running up and down the birds and the trees and everything. I've got my dog here. I've got a giant desk. I've got a really comfortable chair that leans back. I've got, a pit, something that lifts my leg up so I can, like a lounge chair kind of thing, ottoman. I have everything that I need on my desk. It looks exactly the way I want it to look. I've got the right laptop. Everything works. I've just created, and working from home, obviously there are a lot of people that work from home, but they don't necessarily have their spaces set up the way that it's going to be the best for them, where they're going to do their best work. I happen to like working in every single room in my house. So, for example, if I'm talking to a potential client or somebody who's potentially going to be in the class, very often I'll sit in the chair in my bedroom because it's really comfortable and I can stay focused there. I close the door. I work downstairs on my dining room table. I work when I'm talking on Zoom, I'm in my office always. This is where I am.
You've
Yeah.
got your systems, you've got your strategies, and I'm going to try to
Right.
summarize what I have learned from you today, because you've been helping people who have a greater awareness of what works for each person, right? And so it's
Right.
really describing the physical aspects of space, the light, the desk, the sounds. Do you need headphones to block out extra sounds? Do you need to be in an office with walls? Do you need
Mhm.
time to get up, move around, be outside? You talked about um, also getting in touch with what do they want to do, meaning how do they show up as a person in order to serve others, or do they like to have a
Yeah.
specific task and get to do it on their own? If you want to manage people, that's over here. If you don't want to manage people, that's over here. We don't all have to be good at everything.
Well, it's really knowing what you're attracted to and where you get your energy. I'd say that's a big thing. Where do you get your energy? And I mean, when you're working on something and you can feel energized, right? You can feel, and it's something you look forward to doing, and it's something you want to grow from and learn more about, and maybe do some different aspect of it. So
I
it's
really love
it's that's where when we talk about the sustainability of a career path, that you look beyond just the next thing. The next thing is going to be moving in that direction. But then after that, you're going to be growing and expanding and wanting to learn more. And so like the branches of a tree, you might grow this branch or grow that branch, right?
I like it that
Um,
we are not stuck in the ground because we're growing up and out and
we're growing up and
spread.
out and we're
Oh,
spreading.
so great. Well, Shell, I think we have learned so much already. And how can people find you?
You can find me at career coaching with shell.com. And for me now, the baseline with working with me is the Your Next Career Move Masterclass. So if you click on services and scroll to Your Next Career Move Masterclass, you'll see the whole page telling you when the next class is going to be, which now is not until January. I do have openings if people are interested. Um, and then the book will be coming out hopefully December, January, somewhere in there. The pre-sale is going to be October 15th. So if you click on course book, you'll see the author's page and it will explain what the book is about.
And I will have the links in the show notes. So check it out, reach out to Shell, get that pre order going. And this is just in time, I think, pre orders, because then once it's released, it can be
Yes.
a late Christmas or an early New Year's gift. And you already
Yes.
know what's on your list, it's taken care of, and you can move on forward. Shell Mendelson, I'm so glad to get to meet you and to chat with you. Thank you so much for being here.
You too, Hillary. Thank you very much.
All right, here's where I need your help. I want you to help me let women entrepreneurs and business owners who are over 50 know that there is a place where they can come to connect, learn, and get inspired at the Women's Midlife Network. You can share this episode with them today. whether you're clicking those 3 dots to share the episode or following that little box with the arrow up. Thanks so much. Hey, do you know someone who is struggling with career choices of any age? Well, maybe they need a little bit of support, especially if they've been diagnosed with ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And not all people with ADHD are hyperactive. Some are inattentive, and some have mixed. But above all, I hope you know that there's hope out there for you to find a career that's a good fit, no matter what age you are. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for listening. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you being an essential part of the Women's Midlife Network. We're connecting women. We're sharing stories and inspiring change. And not just for now, but for decades to come. I am so thankful for you, and I always hope you feel the love. Until next time, this is Hillary Baggett with Hill Talks Podcast. Let's move forward in midlife.